It's Bitcoin Brown here. The Bitcoin chronicles continue. Justin Trudeau and the battle for the New World Order. So Justin Trudeau in Canada has shown you everything you better be afraid of. Okay, they've shown you that they'll seize bank accounts. They've shown you that they'll freeze assets. And believe it or not, if you're a Canadian citizen living in America and your bank's in Canada, they can freeze your money. And they could even freeze money for people who travel back and forth across the border. So they're freezing bank accounts, they're attacking cryptocurrency, they're taking political opponents, throwing them in jail. Because you can argue that the leaders of the trucking convoy, the trucking blockade, that they're actually a political opposition using nonviolent protesting and blockading. And of course, you're seeing that the New World Order, the neoliberals, can't stand that. They have to shut them down. Now, I've said before, why did they let BLM run wild, and these people who are nonviolent, they're going to crush them? Well, it's because BLM accomplished nothing, all right? There's still as many black people in prison as there was before. The cops are still copping on black people because, see, BLM was like a political movement. It was the anger and frustration that was focalized in the George Floyd death, and it exploded. And then the powers that be, they fanned the flames. And there's cases where the establishment, government, was actually promoting Black Lives Matter, dropping off pallets of bricks and crazy stuff like that. But in the end, whatever side of the spectrum you're on, BLM accomplished nothing. Now, a lot of people got money, but the average black person in America got nothing out of it. And the police presence, and now you see on all the morning neoliberal talk shows like Morning Jagoff and all those guys, I'm talking about Morning Joe, they're talking about more and more police presence cracking down on people. And they're also, what they're trying to do is to, they're showing you that people are looting these drugstores. After 2 years of draconian shutdown and people losing their jobs and having no hope, and now people out of desperation are stealing and looting. But they're going to crack down on those people. Now, they're not going to talk to you about the largest upward transfer of wealth in human history. Trillions of dollars went to Jeff Bezos and Amazon and Walmart during the pandemic as mom and pop shops and bars and restaurants and beauty parlors and small businesses were decimated. So they didn't really care about BLM. BLM served their purpose. And the main reason it served their purpose is, and I've told you this before, they propagandize you into hating your neighbor. They propagandize you into hating someone who looks different than you. They propagandize you into hating your fellow American. So you're not punching up at them, even after the largest transfer of wealth in human history just happened during the pandemic. They're telling you to hate a Trump supporter. They're telling you to hate a Biden supporter, or they're telling you to hate an Asian lady. This is the craziness, because they don't want you to amalgamize like the Canadian truckers did and start asking the establishment, hey, you guys, in the upper echelons, you're mistreating us and we want reform. That's what they don't want. So they were cool with BLM. But like I said, BLM accomplished nothing. The truckers actually are accomplishing something because, like I've said before, the truckers are more a labor movement. BLM was more a political movement, but the truckers are a labor movement. Now that really scares them, because the labor movement, where they can start shutting down and doing wildcat strikes and shutting down the economy, that they don't want. They don't mind if BLM or Antifa burns your neighborhood down, but when the economy or the border can be shut down, now they really pay attention. So that's why it's got everyone's attention. Now they're afraid there's going to be another convoy to Washington, D.C. And this is how change happens, nonviolently. Henry David Thoreau, Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr., the great civil rights activists of America. These are the ways you change things, through nonviolent. And on my side of the spectrum, I keep saying cryptocurrency because we want to take the power of fiat away from them. We want to separate the power of money and state. When the power of money and state is separated, then you and I and all the people of the world, we have the power. They don't. They don't go into politics anymore for money. Why? Because there's no money there. It's only money that you and I choose to give them. But right now, because they can point a gun at you and take taxes from you, and they can fill their coffers with money. And again, money is a hallucination. That's a whole different discussion. But once they take that money, they can now point the gun at you, and they keep using your own money, your own resources. They keep exploiting people. They exploit poor people. They exploit immigrants. They exploit black people. They start exploiting differences between people. They do all this so that they can maintain power. And the power is starting to collapse. And you're seeing this in Canada. You're seeing this in Trudeau. You're seeing the desperation. Justin Trudeau, Mr. GQ70's guy, is taking mounted police and running people over because they're afraid. They really are afraid because they see what's coming. They see that a labor movement is coming. And I've told you, the international workers of the world, that type of movement that was crushed over a century ago has kind of resurged and come back up from the dead. And that's what they're really afraid of, is a labor movement, not a political movement. They're afraid of a labor movement. Yeah, they were afraid when the riots got closer and closer to the centers of power. Then they said, whoa, we can't have this anymore. But if you look around, after all of what happened with BLM, again, doesn't matter what side you're on the BLM or Antifa disasters that happened, what changed? Nothing. BLM accomplished nothing. It sowed greater divisions amongst people. Now the Canadian trucker movement is the opposite. It is bringing people together. They can't have that. Do you know that 60% of the Canadian truckers are from the India subcontinent because of the British Commonwealth? You have a lot. And if you interact with Canadian truckers, how many of them are Sikhs or from India? About 60% of them. So you're trying to say that this is only a Caucasian or European-centric movement is insanity. The main reason those truckers are fighting is, one, the vaccine mandate, even though the majority of them are vaccinated. The second one is the vaccine passport. No one wants to show a vaccine passport, and you're noticing in America they're backing off on that. And number three was the tracking thing, so that they knew where you were at all times. That's what they wanted. They were test piloting that junk in Canada, and they wanted to bring it to America so they could track you wherever you go. You don't want to be tracked everywhere you go. And let me tell you something, for the people who always come out and say, well, I have nothing to hide, here's my answer to you. Go lick a boot. Just go lick a boot right now. Go find yourself a leftist and start licking his boot, because no one should be tracked against their will. Because that type of power of knowing where you're at or your enemies are at or someone you want to get your hands on, that's extraordinarily dangerous to put that in the power of any government, let alone the United States government. Any government on earth does not need that power. We have got to take power away from them. And what I advocate through nonviolent means is crypto, specifically Bitcoin. The more you put into Bitcoin over time, just gradually dollar cost average in, you're draining the power from fiat into Bitcoin. Remember, Bitcoin is not run by any government. It's stateless. It's unconfiscatable. It's instantaneously transportable across this planet. I can beam you money, you can beam me money. I can beam money to someone in Costa Rica who's making me, tables. I can beam money to someone in Los Angeles who's making me artwork. And I don't need a bank. I don't need the cartel banking system to control that, to skim it. I don't need the government to be knowing exactly what I'm doing at all times. And once we have money that way, once fiat decreases in power, then the government has to take their hat off, come to us with their hat in their hand, and say, we'd like money, please, to build a bridge or build a road. Okay, we'll invest in that, but we're not going to invest in these insane wars like the U.S. government did in Iraq when they killed 1 million innocent Iraqi people using our money, my money, your money, and made us, co-conspirators in a mass killing of 1 million innocent Iraqis. Meanwhile, the U.S. government is probably partially somehow responsible for this lab disaster from Wuhan that's killed 1 million Americans and killed millions of people worldwide. You see why you have to put a stop to it? You see we have to make a stand, and all you got to do, and from my perspective, the simplest thing you can do to send a message is buy $5 of Bitcoin, because you're telling them, I can move my wealth-generating capability out of your fiat into Bitcoin. That also terrifies them. That's why Trudeau is trying to shut it down. So everything Trudeau is trying to do, it's coming to America, it's coming to you. If they'll shut BLM down or shut those truckers down, You're going to be next. I'm going to be next. Doesn't matter what political part of the spectrum you're on. God bless.